Hello guys and welcome to Ready for Departure channel. This time we're heading to one of the most iconic cities in the world, which for a long time was the capital of the Byzantine Empire and the center of power, wealth and culture, Istanbul. We'll be flying with Ural Airlines from Moscow's Domodedovo International Airport. Our day starts early at 6 in the morning, giving us a rare glimpse of sleepy Moscow. The streets are empty and the Russian National Museum of Music, named after Glinka, quietly waits to open, just like it did when I first visited it as a schoolboy. I need to meet my friends at Domodedovsk. It's just a 35-minute ride along the Green Line from Maikovskaya, which is one of the most beautiful stations in the Moscow metro. Paying with my Mir card costs about 67 rubles, which is less than €1 at the current rates. We're going down the escalator and the station hall is almost empty, not surprising since Maikovskaya has no transfer lines and only passengers traveling to or from the city pass through here. Opened on September 11, 1938, Maikovskaya quickly gained international fame. Designed by Alexei Dushkin, it won the Grand Prix at the World's Fair in New York just a year later. The station sits 34 meters underground and features the first steel columns used in the USSR instead of concrete. The ceiling mosaics, called 24 Hours of the Soviet Sky, celebrate key moments in Soviet aviation. The station also incorporates corrugated steel plates, a rare material once used in airships. Nearby, a special exhibition showcases metro staff uniforms through the years, marking 90 years of the Moscow metro. Our train arrives and we're lucky. It's the latest Moscow 2024 model with walk-through cars, wide doors and USB charging points for electronic devices. You can move freely along this train during the ride. The route from Maikovskaya to Domodedovskaya passes over the Moskva River, giving us a chance to see part of the city from the train. This area used to be an industrial zone with abandoned factory buildings, but now it's being transformed into a vibrant urban cultural cluster with lofts, concert venues, pedestrian areas and much more. By the way, in Moscow there aren't many metro bridges over the Moskva River, and right now we're crossing one of them. The river is about 480 kilometers long and is part of the Volga River system. And because of its connection to the Volga and other rivers, Moscow is considered the port of 5 seas, the Azov, Black, White, Barents and Caspian seas. At the Domodedovskaya station, comfortable Air Express buses number 1185 are waiting for us, departing from the station every 15 minutes. A one-way trip costs 400 rubles. You can also reach the airport more cheaply using city buses. A ride on bus rate 308 costs only 100 rubles. Another option is the Air Express train from Pavletsky railway station, though it's roughly 1.5 times more expensive. In just 30 minutes we arrived at the square in front of the terminal of Domodedovo International Airport. Domodedovo is one of the 4 main airports of Moscow and ranks 4th in passenger traffic in Russia after Sheremetyevo, Pulkovo and Vnukovo. Given the current circumstances, the airport's main destinations are Central Asia, the Middle East and a few flights to Asia and Africa. Until 2025, Domodedovo was privately owned, but recently it came under state control. The first passenger flight departed from the airport on March 25, 1964, operated by a Tupolev 104 aircraft on the Moscow-Sverdlovsk route. Passenger traffic in 2024 was around 16 million people. We go through security and enter the terminal. Our flight, U6783, departs at 9:45 am. Check-in is already open at counters 192 and 193. I checked in online at home, but I like to collect paper boarding passes, so I decided to visit the counter and get a physical one. The airport has a sufficient number of cafes and restaurants, but I don't recommend buying water there as it can be very expensive. As you can see, even in vending machines, the price of a regular bottle of water reaches 170 rubles, whereas at Sheremetyevo's duty-free I remember it being 35 rubles just a year ago. It will be interesting to see if the price changes in a similar machine after passport control. We'll try to find out and compare. We reach our check-in counters, not many people, and we have plenty of time, so this paper boarding pass will join my collection. At the same time, we check the baggage allowance counter for Ural Airlines. My backpack fits without any issues. The boarding starts at 9:20, giving us enough time to explore the terminal. Prices at Burger King are such that I didn't even approach. They're intimidating even from a distance. We scan our boarding passes and proceed through security. Filming is not allowed at security, so we move on to duty-free, where my friends are actively choosing alcohol. Though between us, they only check baggage to take home with liquors with them for the whole week. After all, we're not just flying for the sake of it, but to attend a concert of my favorite band Manowar, scheduled to perform in Istanbul on July 5. A quick price analysis by my friends showed that they weren't unnecessarily. The prices are reasonable and you could stock up in various spirits for the entire trip at duty-free. However, water here was €1, which is cheaper than before passport control, though the price is in euros. Overall, the product selection in the airport duty-free resembles that of other Moscow airports and is less diverse compared to European airports, especially Istanbul Airport. So if you're flying to Istanbul, it's better to buy clothes, perfumes, and electronics there, even if slightly more expensive. The airport website stated that the spotting race for aviation fans has opened or is opening, and the PR service of Domodedovo told me that the entrance is located at the Servarno restaurant in the international departure zone. We set out to find these restaurants. Unfortunately, it's still closed. I clearly remember reading about it in use a year ago. Apparently, not many people need it, as tiles are still being laid and no one is allowed in. Since spotting for us was impossible, we look for our gate and had to meet our plane. On the way, we check out prices and menus at various restaurants. The prices aren't small, roughly 30% higher than in Moscow. Surprisingly, water in the vending machine turned out to be cheaper than the one we saw earlier, and right next to it there is a coffee machine. Everything you need to start a good trip, especially if you love coffee. Here it is, E4, our gate, and our Ural Airlines little plane, an Airbus A321neo with registration array 73839. It's only 5 years old, and I've watched it landings and takeoffs many times while filming in Domodedovo. Unfortunately, due to how flight radar works around Moscow airports, we couldn't see planes on the ground, and the camera didn't allow me to see the registration numbers of the aircraft, so identifying where these beauties are headed isn't possible. Boarding begins. No documents are being checked now, only boarding passes. This time we will board via the jet bridge. I had previously contacted the airline, told them about our channel and requested permission to film certain reactions in the cabin. Because of this, I waited to board last so as not to disturb anyone. Ural Airlines allows passengers to bring animals in the cabin under certain rules, and I'm very glad that our passenger complies. Such a cute little face. And now it's our turn to enter the plane and meet the crew, including the senior flight attendant, Alexandra. Closing the door is always an emotional moment because from that point, we all become passengers of the same flight, which will be a 4-hour journey at 11 kilometers above the ground. As far as I know, flight attendants are experienced psychologists. They observe passengers, analyze their behavior, immediately noting anyone who might be nervous. Even the welcome speech, though being pre-written, can calm anxious flyers through tone and delivery. Sorry, Alexandra, if our camera made you a little nervous too.
Доброе утро, дамы и господа, командир корабля экипаж от имени авиакомпании «Уральские авиалинии». Рады приветствовать вас на борту самолета Airbus A321, вылетающего рейсом 783 по маршруту Москва-Домодедово Стамбул. Мы тепло приветствуем на борту участников программы лояльности «Крылья». Расчетное время в пути до Стамбула составит 4 часа 40 минут. Благодарю за внимание. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The captain and his crew on behalf of Ural Airlines are glad to welcome you aboard Airbus A321 and flight 783 to Istanbul. We're glad to see airport members of your loyalty program. Flight time to Istanbul will be 4 hours 40 minutes. Thank you.
Pushback begins and we see a parked Boeing 737-800 of Sherekavia in a very unusual livery with a dark blue nose, who just arrived from Yerevan a few minutes ago. We are scheduled to take off from runway 3 on left, the very runway from which takeoffs are fascinating to film. In the distance, we see a north side plane in the livery of the mini football club Norilsk Nickel. On the tail, the club's separated logo is proudly displayed, a roaring white bear holding a football symbolizing the team's strength, determination and spirit. The fuselage is decorated with dynamic football match scenes, capturing players at dramatic moments, incredible tricks, powerful strikes and winning goals. An interesting feature is the nose of the plane. It shows a football flying at high speed, cutting through the air toward the opponent's goal. The plane just arrived from Norilsk and is preparing for its next flight to Makhachkala. Opposite it stands an S-7 aircraft in the One World Alliance livery. All alliances have suspended operations with Russian carriers for now, but the livery remains. Domodedovo used to be a hub for this alliance in Russia, but nowadays this Moscow airport is a hub for A7 and Ural Airlines. We also spot a rare plane and a 7 cargo aircraft with cargo written on the fuselage. The last time I saw it was far away in Siberia, when we flew there in Airbus A350 with Alex. By the way, a video on the flight is also available on the channel. The link will appear at the top of the screen. And now we see an Airbus A320 lining up the runway to depart for Kaliningrad, another interesting travel destination. Another Boeing 737-800, this time in North-South classic new livery, which suspiciously looks a bit like a Hut in a different color scheme, is now taking off in a 2-hour flight to the city of Kurgan. It's great when flight attendants demonstrate how to use the onboard equipment live. On many airlines, videos now show this automatically, but it's always more interesting to see a human demonstration rather than just a screen. Since we'll be flying over the sea, they also show us how to use the life jackets. I recall our visit to Aeroflot's training center, where we saw the largest pool simulating a tropical downpour for cabin crew practice. Well then, our aviation journey trail begins here. We notice that the runway number has been repainted from 32 to 31. This is fascinating. It's due to the so-called magnetic shift, a change in the Earth's magnetic field. This process happens continuously, and when magnetic declination changes, the runway number is adjusted to ensure navigation accuracy. Behind us, we see a flight to Beslan on an Airbus A321 of Ural Airlines, but unlike ours, this is not the new version. By the way, it was this aircraft that I witnessed going around earlier this summer. I highly recommend checking it out. And now let's listen to the very smooth and calm sound of the engines at takeoff power. cover is low today, so we won't get to enjoy views of the Moscow suburbs and the air around Domodedovo this time, but we will experience the moment when our plane pierces the cloud layer with its nose, rising above the clouds toward the sun, revealing a stunning contrast of deep blue sky and grey clouds below. If you ever forget what to do in an emergency, the safety instructions are located in the seat pocket in front of you, and the in-flight magazine introduces the Ural Airlines fleet. Let's get acquainted with it too, but in a unique way. I'll temporarily transport us to a small hill near Domodedovo Airport for some spotting, so we can observe each of these aircraft in action. We start with the Airbus A319. There are only 4 of these in the fleet of Ural Airlines. The newest aircraft is 16 years old, and the oldest is 24. It has 8 business class seats and 132 in economy, with a maximum range of 6,800 kilometers. Next, the Airbus A320, the largest in the fleet with 22 aircraft. The newest is 13 years old, the oldest is 26. Configuration includes 12 business class seats and up to 150 economy seats, with a maximum range of 5,600 kilometers. Airbus A321neo, 3 aircraft aged 5 to 6 years, featuring fuel-efficient and environmentally friendly engines, configured with 12 business seats and 164 economy seats. Maximum range is 6,850 kilometers. Airbus A321, 14 aircraft with a wide range from 8 to 26 years, all economy configuration with up to 220 seats and a range of 5,600 kilometers. And the start of this video, the Airbus A321neo, 8 aircraft, all economy only, with up to 236 seats and a maximum range of 6,850 kilometers. That's the Ural Airlines fleet. It's a pity there are no special liveries, but I hope that if airline staff see this overview, they might take notice. Of course, any livery adds paint, which contributes to the aircraft's takeoff weight and affects fuel consumption, but stickers could be used to commemorate unique historical moments for the airline, and for spotters, this is a chance to capture rare aircraft. By the way, I haven't come across many overviews that show the fleet in action the way we just did. If you enjoyed it, please like the video. It helps the channel grow and shows that our work is valued and interesting to viewers. Closer to the Caspian Sea, the clouds begin to clear. This isn't the most direct route to Istanbul, but due to current airspace regulations near the Black Sea, we have to detour toward the Caspian, then fly west along the northern slope of the Caucasus Mountains to Sochi, and finally cross the Black Sea to Turkey and Istanbul. As we approach the Caspian, the flight attendants start serving drinks and meals. The standard meal includes a choice of sandwich. You can also pre-order a hot meal online sometime before the flight at reasonable prices. On board, you can purchase snacks, small portions of alcohol, and even Chinese noodles, not everyone's favorite due to the smell. The sandwiches offered a variety of options. Since I don't eat meat, I chose a cheese sandwich and reminded the crew about the pre-ordered meal, which they promised would arrive in just a few minutes. Unfortunately, I didn't record the menu screen in advance, and now it's only accessible online by entering your booking reference, not very convenient. It would be nice to see the meal options before purchasing a ticket, which could also help to choose an airline. Meals range in price from 8 to 20 euros and include fish, meat, Russian cuisine, and children's meals. The box also shows business lunch and breakfast options. Since I pre-ordered, I got a meal with fish, green beans, rice, a piece of grilled pepper, along with a pastry, a herring salad, and a bun. It was tasty, though I would have added sauce to the rice as it was a bit dry. While we were satisfying our hunger and my friends were having scholarly conversations somewhere in the back of the cabin, our plane had already reached the Black Sea. I remember my first flight to Istanbul on Domodedovo Airlines, also for a Manova concert, when the pilot pointed out historical landmarks we were flying over. It was very interesting. And here's an interesting fact: the Black Sea is unique. With an average depth of about 1,200 meters, life does not exist below 200 meters because there is no oxygen and a very high concentration of hydrogen sulfide. Only certain anaerobic bacteria can survive in water saturated with this gas, essentially the dead water. Moreover, hydrogen sulfide has an exceptional ability to preserve organic matter, so the seafloor contains many well-preserved artifacts and ancient shipwrecks that can reflect the history of the region in minute detail. Through the window, a plane flying east is clearly visible. I tried to identify the airline and flight using a flight tracker, but nothing similar was passing over this peninsula at that moment, possibly a Sukhoi Superjet 100 of era flying from Istanbul to Sochi. But as we continue toward Istanbul, let's take a moment to talk a bit about my adventures there. I might also share and show some places worth visiting in Istanbul. As this wasn't my first visit, I didn't go to the main attractions, especially since the tickets now seem unrealistically expensive in my opinion. Every arrival in Istanbul isn't just meeting an old friend, it's discovering new things, new experiences, and new places. The city where European culture blends with Eastern charm, unique bazaars, stunning architecture, ancient monuments, and fantastic food, that's Istanbul. I came here for a concert of my favorite band, so my trip was split between exploring the city and the Princess Islands, with the concert itself taking up a whole day. I always want to be in the front row, so I arrived at the venue by 8 or 9 am, even though the concert starts late in the evening. This time I also had a separate activity, plane spotting at the new Istanbul Airport observation deck. In the city there are two fast food spots I always stop by, even as a vegetarian. The first is Galeta Simit, in my opinion the best simits in town. Sure, you'll find them on every corner from street carts, but if you go to the address on your screen, you can buy freshly baked ones cheaper, soft, and incredibly tasty. Nearby on the same street, there's a lot of so-called fish shawarma, which is nothing like the shawarma we see in Russia. I recommend only one spot. You can always recognize it by the queue, which never lies. There are also cheaper options with no line, but this place is unbeatable. This combination of spices, fresh fish, and a modest portion lets you eat without overeating, unlike the heavily advertised sandwiches from the boats near Eminamo. My favorite neighborhood is the historic Sultan Ahmet. Not the tourist-packed Istiklal Street with its shops and boutiques, where long tramp squeaks by and evenings filled with crowds from bars and restaurants. If you love nightlife, that's the place. But back to the quiet and serene Sultan Ahmet, the ancient hippodrome. If you didn't know it was there, you might not realize how grand it was. A venue for sports competitions and ceremonial events that could hold up to 100,000 people at once. Today it houses the trophy obelisk of Thutmose III brought from Karnak and the Serpent Column, an ancient Greek bronze column that was part of the sacrificial tribute from Delphi, cast from weapons of defeated Persians during the Greco-Persian Wars. And of course, Sultan Ahmet is a dramatic encounter between the Byzantine Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque. Which one is taller, more beautiful, and more powerful? In the evenings, you can sit at the square with the fountain, enjoy the warm nights, the bustle of turrets, and the historical grandeur of the place. If you have a free day, a regular ferry costing only 35 Turkish lira can take you on a 2-hour trip to the Princess Islands. You can stroll the largest of them at the lure. Pine forests, blue sea, and fresh air, with no gasoline vehicles allowed, it's the perfect escape after a few days on the noisy city streets. And of course, plane spotting. If you're an aviation fan, Istanbul offers a unique opportunity. From April to November, you can apply every Monday for the upcoming Saturday. You don't even need special equipment, just bring a folding chair, a cold drink, and enjoy the roar of engines and the grace of landing and taking off planes. Everything is arranged very conveniently. A bus takes you from the terminal to the spot and back, running every half hour. On the day I was there, they even offered free drinks and snacks. The terraced overlooks runway 34 left, where mostly European traffic lands, though there are exceptions. Summer heat can make filming tricky, but I would love to catch a go around from this point. We have a plane spotting video from this terrace on our channel. You can check the link at the top of your screen. Well, now we're approaching Istanbul, so let's return to our plane. Here there is the Bosphorus Strait from the Black Sea side, a hotspot for many geopolitical debates, the only entrance to the Black Sea. I've heard that Turkey wants to build an artificial canal, controlled solely by them, but as far as I know, construction hasn't started yet. Currently, shipping in the strait is regulated by the Montreal Convention, which restores Turkey's sovereignty over the strait, provided Turkey follows the principles of international maritime law. Merchant ships from all countries have freedom of passage through the strait in both peacetime and wartime. However, there are significant restrictions for warships. In peacetime, Black Sea states Turkey, Romania, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Georgia, and Russia can deploy warships of any class. And for non-Black Sea powers, there are strict limits on ship class, tonnage, and duration of stay in the Black Sea. Below us are the suburbs of Istanbul, the Asian side of the city. Istanbul is unique. Within minutes, you can move from one continent, Europe, to another, Asia. You can cross the strait in different ways, by car over a bridge, through tunnels by a metro road, or by the city ferries. A year ago, I flew Pegasus to Istanbul's second airport, Sabiha Gökçen, and needed to get to the European side. It was very convenient to take the metro to the strait, then a ferry. Ferries run frequently between Kadıköy, Eminönü and Kabataş, from where it's easy to reach either the historic Sultanahmet area or the newer touristy parts, Taksim Square and Istiklal Street. Istanbul from the air is always impressive. Unfortunately, we're flying slightly north, so we won't see the Blue Mosque, Topkapi Palace, or the Glada Tower from above. But in front of us, the old Ataturk Istanbul Airport unfolds in all its glory. It was the third largest in Europe and 11th in passenger traffic. Just imagine, this relatively small airport handled over 61 million passengers in 2015, which led to the construction of the new airport, where we are now heading. The new airport opened in 2018, much further from the city center. The metro line now connects it, making it easy to reach downtown. But be prepared, the transfer from M2 to M11 takes a long time. I think it took me 10 to 15 minutes walking through various corridors. And don't forget to bring water, it can be very hot in summer. The new airport is truly massive, with numerous runways serving many airlines, flights and destinations. About 90 million passengers passed through it in 2024. The main terminal covers around 1.3 million square meters, with over 70 jet bridges and continuous takeoffs and landings. For passengers, it might not be the most convenient airport, because reaching the farthest gate from the central area, even with moving walkways, takes 15 to 20 minutes, and if your flight is moved from Zone B to Zone F, it takes even longer. Huge duty-free areas, 1 hour of UFI and fast food restaurants, all available, but I highly recommend eating before entering the sterile zone. Prices are astronomical. A regular cheeseburger and a bottle of water cost around 20 euros at the food court on the second floor. The arrival zone is quite convenient, and importantly for spotters, if you are not in a rush, the windows on the second floor offer great views of parked planes, especially near the outer gate where the runways are. I personally did plane spotting at the end of zones B and F. perfect for capturing all the action on video. My personal record at Istanbul Airport, 40 minutes taxiing on the ground before coming to a full stop. Truly a huge airport. While taxiing to our gate, we passed Turkish Airlines aircraft, a Boeing 737-900 heading to Bremen, and our green flight neighbor, a 7-plane from Domodedovo which flew with us. In the distance, I could spot the tail of my favorite Aegean Airlines plane, probably preparing for flight to Athens. And here are the heroes of ground services, airport staff working in a scorching heat under the jet exhaust, ready to prepare planes for the return flights, which I'll take on the same airline next week. Thanks to Alexandra, the pilots and the entire crew for an excellent flight. I wish clear skies, happy passengers and exciting new routes. And to you dear friends, welcome to Istanbul. Thank you for joining us on this trip report. We hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. You can check out the videos on our page and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything.